Hello and welcome to the THC show. On the show today we have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca joining us for the 420 session, and Jerry Martin will be here for the Martin Medical Moment. I don't have a guest on today. We are the day after 420. Things are a little bit slowed down. I didn't ask anybody to come on the show today. And as you can see, I'm still sort of in the mood here wearing my 420 stuff. So we didn't have 420 at the beach yesterday like we've had the last few years, or downtown in any large gatherings due to the pandemic that's going on. As we all know, we had 420 online, a Zoom conference with a whole bunch of our Canna family from all across Canada. We actually rang in 426 different times yesterday. It was okay. I think that we did capture a lot of the 420 spirit that infects people as we gather and celebrate the herb and protest things. But it certainly was a far cry from what we normally do, for sure. 420 is about a lot more than just gathering our Canna family and sharing in the spirit of weed. 420 is an event that we forced here in Vancouver starting 26 years ago, and we never were permitted to do it. We always took a lot of flack year after year, and we were always concerned year after year about what the authorities might do, what the police might do. But we forced that event because that is the best event that we've ever put together for being able to actually get attention from authorities and media. And that's what 420 is all about, mostly for me. It's a platform that garners attention from media worldwide. It's now become such a huge mainstream event. It's probably the biggest and most prestigious event that Vancouver has. The only thing that I see that has come close to that was when we had the Olympics here in 2010. But other than that, the 420 event in Vancouver gathers more people than any other event. It goes all day long. We have top name performers come and entertain everybody, and we have a huge range of activist speakers that come and protest what we're not happy about. One of the things that we really lacked yesterday was a lot of media attention. We did actually get a little bit, and that's kind of cool. Did you want to play that clip, Neil? Are you ready for that? So play the clip from City TV, I guess, and this is what they had to say about us.
April 20th, also known as 420, and normally the 420 festival would have this field at Sunset Beach in downtown Vancouver filled with people smoking, selling, and celebrating all things cannabis. But this year, the party has moved from the waterfront to the web. The celebration is a little more mellow this time around.
Hey, we're missing like 50,000 people, so.
Physical distancing measures have prevented hundreds of thousands of pot smokers from rolling their way downtown like they've done for the past 25 years.
420 is about gathering in person, but 420 is also about a spirit that's in all of our hearts. And we're going to do our best to maintain that spirit on the internet, and people can all celebrate together. And we're not going to let this Grinch virus ruin our cannabis Christmas for us.
I'm going to light a joint.
The virtual festival, a joint effort between cannabis advocates across Canada, celebrating 4:20 p.m. in each province, beginning in Newfoundland.
Really thrilled to be part of this with you guys back east. That's awesome.
And ending in BC.
If you got 'em, let 'em. I love you all.
The usual Sunset Beach celebration was officially canceled last month. A profitable day for many unlicensed vendors gone up in smoke.
There's definitely people who are very upset that it's been canceled, although we all understand why that has to be.
Thousands tuned in to the live stream throughout the day, much to the thrill of organizers who believe the so-called protestival is still relevant, even though pot is now legal.
I mean, this should be subsidized and encouraged throughout our society. It displaces the use of alcohol and harmful other drugs and pharmaceuticals and things. So yeah, we're a long way from getting there.
From a live DJ to giveaways, the live stream went off smoothly. The only setbacks were technical.
Can you hear me in the booth?
Minor issues compared to the permit problems and pushback from city officials the unsanctioned event is accustomed to.
It'd be nice to go back to normal and be arguing just about the grass at Sunset Beach and not about the more serious issues that we're all concerned with right now. And really, to me, it puts things in perspective a little bit.
While Sunset Beach is calm and quiet this year, it seems the days of butting heads with the city are not over yet.
We will definitely be back next year.
In Vancouver, Travis Prasad, City News.
It is April 20th, but the annual 420 event did not go ahead as usual today.
2, 1!
Last year, tens of thousands of people gathered here at Sunset Beach to celebrate all things cannabis for 420. But this year, the event was canceled due to COVID-19 fears and social distancing. That obviously didn't stop a few dozen marijuana enthusiasts from showing up anyway. Vancouver park rangers were also there to make sure social distancing rules were being followed.
Some coverage for sure. Kind of made the day worthwhile in that respect for me anyway. But, you know, there's a lot to protest yet. And that's what we really didn't get to say much about on the broadcast yesterday. Ringing in 6 different 420s across Canada meant that, you know, we had limited amount of time in between each one of those. And there wasn't really much opportunity to complain. And that's what I used 420 for. That's what I get so pumped about, is I get to do a speech in front of over 100,000 people, but mostly it's the array of media that's there, and that goes around the world, and we get to talk about the things that we're concerned about. And basically it goes like this. We're there to celebrate cannabis because cannabis is awesome. Cannabis is an amazing natural plant that has a symbiotic relationship with human beings that goes back millennia. In fact, it goes back so far that we've evolved, along with all the other vertebrates, an endocannabinoid system, an interior system of cannabinoids that help to regulate the entire rest of our body, and everything that goes wrong with us is mitigated by the cannabinoids that our bodies create, whether or not we're using cannabis or not. Those people that are using cannabis are just supplementing their own endocannabinoid system. So it's a huge part of us and our health, and much, much more than that. Industrially, cannabis is fiber, it's fuel, it's plastics, it's concrete, all kinds of other things that we can use cannabis for. That would offset the use of other things that we use that are much more toxic in our society. But they're things that people can patent. And so that's one of the reasons, and one of the sides of why cannabis is illegal, is because it is so valuable and it competes so unfairly with these other things that people can own and patent, that there's been a huge push for decades to try to keep cannabis illegal so that it doesn't compete unfairly with these things that people are making money off of. It's a social tool that people use to get together and harmonize together, and it's a creative tool. It's a violence suppressor. It's a whole bunch of amazing things, and it is nothing dangerous or harmful. In fact, one of the best things about cannabis is you can't overdose on it, and you can overdose on just about anything that's in the grocery store, in the drugstore, in your garden, and in your home flowers and things. Just about everything has an LD50 rating, which means that there's a lethal dose that would kill 50% of the average people who consume that much. And just about everything has a fairly easily attainable LD50 rating. Cannabis does not. The LD50 rating for cannabis is 1,500 pounds. If you could somehow ingest 1,500 pounds of cannabis within 10 minutes, they suspect that it would kill 50% of the people that did that. Of course, that's never been proven, and nobody's ever died from an overdose of cannabis. And so that's kind of the other thing about it is that not only is cannabis awesome and cannabis is safe, but it has no justification for ever being prohibited. It's been demonized and lied about for decades in an effort to protect the corporate interests that it competes unfairly with. It's because of its value and its utility that makes it something that they want to ban and make illegal. And we live in what's supposed to be a free country here. We're supposed to have public servants that are looking out for our better interests. Yet, obviously, our public servants have been co-opted by these corporate influences that want to protect their money. And so our public servants have bowed to those forces and demonized cannabis, lied about it, prohibited it, used the criminal law against anybody that would produce or sell or even possess cannabis. And that is something that we've been protesting for a very long time. There's so many people in the United States, for example, that are locked up for small amounts of cannabis with the 3 strikes you're out rule and things like that. It's just horrible, the amount of taxpayer money and people's money that's being wasted to try to enforce these protections for these corporate goods. It's just horrible, the amount of people that have been harmed by not even being able to have cannabis. The denying of access to people with medical conditions that could be using cannabis is horrible. People have died and lived very horrible lives that would have otherwise been saved or mitigated if they'd have been able to use cannabis. So we have a lot to protest about. In fact, for me, it's really a fight for freedom. It's not really a fight for using cannabis, but cannabis is the most obvious and glaring example of how we're not free. If this amazingly valuable and amazingly safe, natural occurring commodity can be prohibited with the criminal law and lied about like that, then man, we are sure not free here, and our public servants are not working for us. They don't have our interests in mind. And so there's a lot to protest yet. Legalization in Canada, Trudeau lied to us. He said he was going to legalize it properly. He said that legalization would mean that medical patients didn't have to worry about access anymore. And then what did he do? He legalized it so that all of his friends and insiders would profit on the production and sale of cannabis. The medical patients are completely left out of the equation, and people that want to consume cannabis that can't grow for themselves are stuck either going to an illegal underground marketplace or going to buy cannabis from government stores, which is a bunch of dried, under-cured, overpriced, overpackaged, chemically sprayed or irradiated cannabis that is not safe for people. The warnings on the government cannabis are probably justified. Certainly it's not anything that any medical user would ever want to have anything to do with, and they are completely shut out in the cold by so-called legalization, which did effectively shut down almost all of the medical dispensaries that have been operating in Canada in an effort to protect those government non-medical stores. So that's all horrible. That all needs to be protested and not accepted. We can't. We don't want to settle for what they're offering us, because they're still putting people in jail. They're still wasting our tax dollars. They're still lying about people that use cannabis and stigmatizing people, saying that it harms the developing brain, saying that it impairs people, all kinds of stuff, and ignoring how much benefit it is, ignoring the fact that it'll offset the use of alcohol, tobacco, pharmaceuticals, and street drugs and opioids, which are killing people in large numbers. We have a pandemic of opioid overdoses going on in this country and around the world, and cannabis high-dose edibles is one of the answers to that, yet you hear nothing about that. It's not reported on in the media, it's certainly not encouraged or supported by governments, and yet it is one of the main answers for the opioid crisis. We run a program here in Vancouver called the Cannabis Substitution Project. For over 3 years, we've been giving away cannabis high-dose edibles in care packs to people that will line up twice a week to get those packs. We gather over 200 people every time, twice a week, on the downtown east side, and we are told that we need to keep doing that by the health department, because those people are getting relief for the symptoms that they're suffering from. And if they don't get what we're giving them, they're going to be out in the community trying to solve their issues with street drugs and other ways. And that's going to put them at greater risk, and that's going to put the community at greater risk. So the Coastal Health Department is on board with us continuing to give out high-dose edibles with the Cannabis Substitution Project. But you don't hear anything about that in the media. And you should, because it's really big news, and people do need to know that that's an option for them, because it's not just the people on the downtown east side that are suffering with the pandemic of overdosing on fentanyl and carfentanil and other tainted, poisoned street drugs. It's people right throughout our community in all walks of life that are struggling with the same issues of depression and addiction and dying of overdoses from the poisoned drug supply. So, there's a lot to protest for sure, and 420 is the biggest one of those that comes around all year, where we really do get the worldwide media to pay attention to our message And it is very depressing to not have that go on. You know, I toughened myself over the years as an activist to be able to stand strong in the face of bully cops and indignant public servants, and to be able to, say, you're wrong, we're right, we're going to continue to do this no matter what you say. And so we have persevered and been very persistent in getting our 420 event to happen, despite the pressure from local authorities. And yet here we are now, subdued by a microscopic, invisible fucking murderer that is not just killing people around the world at an alarming rate, but is also shutting down events, sporting events, concerts, and our 420 protestival. So that's not good. And what do we do about it? Well, we do the best we can, as always. We try to figure out creative ways to get our message out, and we're going to do that. Now we're looking forward to Cannabis Day. And we have some hope that we're going to be able to pull off some sort of a Cannabis Day event. It's over 2 months away. And here in British Columbia, we've got our numbers way down. We've had 4 days in a row of under 30 new cases, and there's increased testing every day. They're testing more people than the day before, and our numbers completely are down, down, down. The cases that they're finding now are in institutions, care homes, penitentiaries, and one meat packing plant, a chicken processing plant that had 20 some cases just overnight here. So it's not really in the general population here in British Columbia. Of course, we have to be diligent to make sure that it stays that way, and I'm sure we're going to have some measures. And people without government measures are going to be a lot more careful about the common touch areas, about touching their face, and about distancing from strangers and things like that. So that here in BC, if this trend continues, well over 2 months from now, we want to have Cannabis Day. And I think we should be able to do that if the trends continue. And so that's the hope that I'm offering, is that, we might be able to have another protestival coming up in a couple of months. And, and maybe there's some hope that we can get back on track. And if this virus doesn't reemerge next winter, maybe we'll have 420 next year. And I sure hope that's the case, because the camaraderie, the ability to protest and be heard, and all of those things are of such extreme value to myself and the other activists who have made this event happen, that this year is very disappointing for sure. I'm glad we managed to do something, because something is better than nothing. And it was pretty cool, the event that we had, but it sure is nothing compared to the really cool event that 420 normally is. So that's what I have on that. In the news today, there's really just one story that I could find of any interest to our viewers, and that is that Canopy Growth has now ceased many of its production operations in 3 continents, Africa, Canada, and the United States, and Colombia as well. Oh, there we are, the 419 warning. That's good. They've also eliminated 85 full-time positions, including Matt Barron and Kurt Tusaw, that went to work for them and are now unemployed, and we'll see what those gentlemen do. Canopy Growth says that they lost $6 billion in the first year of operation. I don't know what kind of a group can lose money selling weed. But and even when you've got a monopoly handed to you, they still can't make money selling weed. So
the best thing I heard all day.
Yeah.
But your neighbor next door can.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody can make money selling weed because it sells for a lot of money compared to what it costs to produce it. But these people not only can't produce proper weed that people want, but they can't even make money doing it with a government to protect a monopoly. So shame on them. And maybe we'll get some relaxed regulations coming up in the future, and maybe we'll get some medical dispensaries allowed back in the future, and all of those things we're going to continue to fight for. So it's 420, and as always on the show, I have the 420 session, and as almost always on the show, I have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca joining me for that.
You need one?
No,
All right.
I got one.
You got one?
I'm an honest guy, and I do like to tell the truth.
Yep. Go
And
for
I
it.
can smoke too much cannabis. I hate to say that. I used to be chronic back in the day, and there was no amount of cannabis that would smoke me under the table. But for the last number of years, I can smoke too much, and especially the potent, pungent cushes can give me a headache.
Yes.
And yesterday being 420, I didn't get very much sleep the night before due to my roommates being noisy. And then I started smoking weed right off the bat yesterday because it was 420. And by the end of the day, I wasn't feeling very good. And by this morning, I had quite a headache going on. I have taken pills, which I don't really like taking, but they do work for the most part. And so I have taken pills today. I have to eat food without or my stomach gets really upset. Early this morning, I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to even do the show. But I am here now, and I am feeling okay. Normally, if I've taken pills, I don't have a puff. But I think I'm going to have a puff.
You gonna have a puff?
I'm going to have a puff.
All right.
Yep.
Hell, it's 420, right?
Now it's 420.
421 now.
Yeah.
It's actually 421 at 421.
That's right. 421 on 421. And I'm a big believer that 420 is a 10-minute long event.
Even Jeremiah saw me today. He said, "Happy 421, Glenn."
There you go.
There we go.
429.
It's a number. Maybe we should
429 is
buy
still a
some lottery
420
tickets.
something.
Yeah, lottery tickets today. You need a light?
Over here now.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey.
You want me to take the mic over?
Oh, they take the mic over.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay Frost and Doug's watching us too.
I see.
They're saying hello.
You got a chat going on there, do you?
Oh no, they're chatting on there.
Yeah. I don't ever get to look at the chat.
Yeah, see, there's Jay Frost
There's
there.
Monty
How's
there.
it, Glenn? Yeah.
Hi,
Shelley.
Monty.
Yeah.
Monty was on the show. He opened it for us yesterday in
Yeah.
Newfoundland there with the 420. They're 4.5 hours ahead of us.
Oh, I know.
It was crazy. It was
I
like
know. It was good to see Jay Frost on there
It's
too.
noon here now, and it's
Yeah.
already long past 420
Yeah.
in Newfoundland. So
Yeah, it was crazy, eh?
it was crazy.
But it was a good way to do that, right?
It was really
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
to be able to spend some time at 420 on 420
Yeah.
with my friends from across Canada.
Yes.
That was really, really
And you know
cool.
what? Being that there is a big screen on stage, and we get to do it next year, maybe we could do that.
We
You
might
know, just put it up on the stage and
That's a
just
great
do it
idea.
right across, right? And then we get to do a bunch of smoking sessions across Canada and still celebrate that
Maybe.
whole thing. Yeah.
It was kind of hard meeting all of those 420 deadlines, six
Yes,
of them,
yeah.
you know?
Well,
5.5 hours,
the-
6 different 420s.
Well, the first one's within a half, or is it, no,
Half an hour,
half
yeah.
an hour, because
Yeah.
it's 11:50 and then 12:20, right?
Yeah, our time.
Yes, our time.
Yeah.
Yes,
In
yes.
Atlantic,
I need my
Canada.
later plates.
with Chris Backer there.
Yeah.
Jess James. That was really awesome. And Debbie Stultz-Griffin. That was good to have those people on there. Yeah, it was awesome. I did
Yeah.
really like that. That really did feel good. Because I always miss those other 420s across Canada.
Yeah.
I have to be here in
But
Vancouver.
you know,
right?
you're in charge of volunteers, so really
I know.
you're so busy
I never have a
during those
choice.
other 420s that the only one that you're focusing on is the one that's happening right there, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep. I would have liked to have gone to Toronto for a 420 maybe.
Yeah.
Niagara does one. They got it going on the hill.
Leo in Windsor.
And Leo and Windsor.
Let's
yeah.
go to see
There's a lot of
Leo's.
other
Yeah.
So and I'm always so busy and so focused here that we really don't spend any time, thinking about those other 420s. So
Yeah.
yesterday was really cool in that respect. We got to really focus on each one of them and talk to the people there.
And
So-
to think of it, I think Leo's permit did get moved from 420 to July 1st.
oh, really?
Yes, if I remember correctly, I think that's what happened. So I think Ontario, the Windsor, Ontario people thought that it would be okay in July too. So yeah, I do believe it was moved to July 1st.
Well, we'll
yes.
see what happens.
Yes, I'll have to ask him about that.
It's a strange new world we're moving into, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll come back to what we know. You never know, right?
I don't think we're ever going back to all that we knew the way that we knew it. I think that we're going to, in the future, we're going to really appreciate a lot of things we didn't really appreciate before enough or think about things, and there'll be some things we're going to miss and probably not be able to ever go back to.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm concerned about the future. Really concerned. There's a lot now that can happen as a result
But
of this.
that's what
with
they
the
want us
economic
to
collapse.
be, is in fear of the future. And let's
Exactly
not
right.
be. Let's just deal with it day by day as it comes. Like,
Yeah.
don't be what if, like I said, it's home, an airplane or a helicopter be flying over my home and it could have an engine problem and crash into my roof. That's a what if that could happen. But I don't think about that what if.
And
right?
if you knew that that was going to happen,
Yes.
what would you do with your time between now and then? Would you spend it huddled in a corner with hiding your head, crying and scared?
No.
Or would you go, okay, well, this is just about over. What do I love? Who do I love?
I'd probably change the situation, right? Not be in that home.
Well, of course.
You know,
But I mean, I'm talking about if you knew that your death was imminent.
Oh, if
You know,
it was
and it
imminent,
is imminent for all of us. And every day could be our last day. You know, I went to
if I was healthy enough, party the last week.
Of course, that's
Yeah.
what you'd want to do.
Yeah.
Bring the people that you love together.
Yeah.
Hug them. Tell them how you feel about them. Enjoy some of the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Maximize the time
Yeah.
that you
Oh, of
have.
course.
That's what you would do. So living in fear is no way
No.
to stave off whatever's going to happen.
Maximize
or
everything
to enjoy
every
your
day,
life.
the best that you can. And if you have a bad day, that's okay because you've had some good days that you maximize.
need bad days.
in order to know the good days.
Embrace the bad days.
Yes,
like you say,
exactly.
it helps you understand the good days.
Yeah.
And you know, people that have failures, there's lessons in every one of those
Yes.
failures. You
Yes.
know, I know that there's a new podcast coming on. The fellow that does From Under the Influence on CBC has got a new one about rejection, the state
Right.
of rejection.
Oh yeah,
I was listening
that's
to that on
hard.
the way in.
Rejection's hard.
Rejection is hard, but
But
his
shapes you.
point is that every time you're rejected,
Yeah.
there are lessons in there.
Yes, of
when
course.
somebody's saying no to you,
Yeah.
you want to understand why.
Yes.
And if you can understand the why, then you can fix it, right?
And sometimes you'll ask why, but the other person feels bad to tell you. So it's hard to learn from that. People should just open up. If you're rejecting somebody, tell them why so that they can make themselves a better person.
Exactly.
Instead of assuming that maybe it was something that he said or she said or they done or whatever. Just
Exactly.
tell them, man, really.
Big time.
Right?
Big
yeah.
time.
And be nice about it. Don't say, oh, you're a fucking asshole, whatever. Just, you know, your course or whatever. You can
I
use
recommend
better
doing
words.
everything from a place of love in your heart.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Even the people that you can't stand, even the people that do things that you don't like, everybody's doing the best they can with who
Yeah.
they are, what they got going on, what they know. If they could be better, they would be better. If they're doing things to hurt you, it might be because they think you've done something to hurt
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of misunderstandings that happen in life and those types of things. I believe in giving everybody the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You know, and I make people prove to me that they don't like me. That you know, that if they're rude to me, I'll let it slide and pretend there's something going on that I just don't know about.
You don't know about, yeah.
And I'll continue to, you know, just pretend that something else going on. And if they insist on being rude several times in a row, then I go,
Then
okay,
you-
well,
then
you
you
don't
get
like
the
me,
hint.
that's fine. I'm not. I don't
You're
try to
lost.
be everybody's cup of tea.
You're
You
lost.
can't be,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But and I think they just don't understand me. That's all, because I mean well, and I'm trying, you know, to do good things with whatever comes along. But that is not everybody's cup of tea.
No.
I'll tell you.
because just because we are nice people, there's got to be harsher people than us because there's an opposite to everything in the world,
Sure.
right? So for all us nice people and the ones that are learning lessons and stuff, there people are out there, they're just repeating the same mistake over and over and over again and not learning until maybe 10 times down the road or something, right?
And it's not their fault.
No, it's
It
not.
just is what
it's
is.
just what it is,
You
right?
know?
Yeah.
But sometimes it helps to have somebody else point something out to you, or
Yes.
you know,
Oh, it
if there's
really
somebody
does,
who
yes.
you value their opinion.
Yeah.
You know, these are the ways out of these things. But you know, emotional reaction, emotional reaction to the negative things that happen, don't usually make it better.
No.
You know, it's like that. It's that age-old lesson of don't cry over spilt milk.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's spilled.
It's spilt already. Crying's not going to clean it up.
No, it's not going to get back into the cup or the jug or
Crying's
wherever
not
it
even
came
going to
from.
put you in a good mood to be able to clean it up. You know.
And the cat's going to come over and like you.
So you need to find something good about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And there is.
Yes.
There is always almost always, there's something good in everything.
Yeah.
And even the really powerful bad stuff, there's powerful good stuff that
Yeah.
comes along with that.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
And
you
some of us
look
can't
on the bright side.
see out of that box. Where some of us are in a box and we only see the one view of the box, right?
Because we're creatures of habit.
Yes, and I know that I can step out of that box and see how the other person might feel and stuff like that. And I've been sort of happy I can do that, right?
It's a great skill.
It is.
It's a very necessary skill, really.
Yes.
Is to be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yes.
Think about, well, how would I feel if I was there? Would I also want what they want?
Yeah.
And probably you would, you know.
Like I have a problem with this COVID-19, but if you tell me that you want to be 6 feet away from me, that's no problem, right? Because I can see outside your opinion and how you may be scared, and maybe the media, maybe it's family that you have or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to respect that because that's who I am. I can be outside that. And in my little box, I would have been, oh, no, I'm going to touch you or whatever. You know, I don't care. You're like, right?
Exactly.
So,
I don't agree with or understand a lot of people's positions on things, but I
Yeah.
respect their position.
Exactly.
That they came by
because
that
it's
honesty.
an opinion, and I have an opinion, and
That's
you
right.
have an opinion, and if you really want somebody to respect your opinion, you need to respect theirs.
I went to the I went to the beach yesterday after the online, and I belted out cannabis from the from where the stage would normally be with
Yeah.
the sun setting in behind me. It was
Oh,
beautiful.
beautiful. I wish I was there.
But
I really did.
there was a couple of guys there,
Yeah.
and they were a little bit drunk. And I told them what I was going to do. I said, I'm here because I got a song I want to sing, and I hope I don't interfere with you guys and what have you. Well, one of the guys, he didn't agree with my opinion on legalizing weed, and he didn't think that was the right thing. He was from Guatemala. He had lost his family. He would have died himself had he not forced himself by hard work to learn English and get the hell out of there and what have you. But I said to him, I said, buddy, these are just my opinions.
Yeah.
And they're worth exactly how much I'm charging you for them.
Yeah. Free.
Take it or leave it. But,
Yeah.
you know, that's how much I think they're worth, is that's how
And
much
did
I'm
you
charging
change his
you.
mind?
He did change his mind. I told him, I said, my focus is on this, because I think that if we could stop the oppression of the plant, we would, have an opportunity to put a dent in wars. We would stop a lot of the violence in our society and other things like that. That it would help us solve many of these other issues that I would be concerned about otherwise. And after that, he said, I actually like your opinion, and I do support what you're doing there.
There you go.
And so that was good.
Yeah.
You know.
It's always nice to get support, right? Somebody was asking me about how I can step out online and talk about my PTSD and stuff. And I told them that it took me 43 years to get there, right? And it's taken some 8 years of psychiatric work. But I said the best part was when I opened up online that I got a positive response, right? I said it's made it a lot easier to be able to talk about it, getting the positive responses of people saying, thank you. I have a mother that just contacted me yesterday that has children in the Big Brothers Association, and she wanted to know what had happened and if things had been changed, and because she was worried about her kids, right? So I let her know, yeah, things have been changed, and they now teach the children how to look for it in an adult that may be a predator and a big brother or a big sister. So it's really changed since 1976 when it happened to me.
Yeah.
Right. So
It's an organization that has that potential.
yes. Yeah.
And they need to be very vigilant
Yeah.
about how
Well,
they do
they were
things.
only
So every
9
time
years old
something
then.
happens,
Yeah.
that's another opportunity for them to recognize how that happened
Yeah.
and put in mechanisms to stop
Yeah,
that. in the future.
the organization was only 9 years old then. It was 1976. They started, I think.
They had to
in
learn those things.
65, I think, yeah, or something like that. Or 69, I think it was. But yeah, so I've had a lot of people come out and say thank you for doing that. There's still some things I haven't let out online that I've kept private to myself, but,
It took you 43 years, but when you get to that point and you put it out there,
yeah.
you are helping a whole lot of other people who are in that journey to try to get to the place where they can put it out.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that. I just put it out there because it was in my head, and I feel like if I put something on paper or online, it helps it get out of my head.
And
Otherwise,
then when
it's
you
trapped
help a
in
bunch
there.
of other people and you can see
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that helps you a lot.
Yes, yes.
So it is a very powerful thing to share those things, and I know that people are afraid of rejection and
Yeah.
what the reaction is going to be, but it's not about the people that react as much as it's about the person themselves.
Yes.
It's cathartic to get that out there, and if people react in a negative way, their opinions are worth exactly what they charged you for them,
Yeah.
And they don't know you, and they don't know what your story is, and they don't understand all those dynamics the way it affects you. So you don't have to take their opinion as
No.
being anything that's real for you. You can let those ones slide because
And I just realized how cannabis has helped, because when I was released from the Children's Aid Society in Ontario at the age of 16, they had been giving me chloropromazine 3 times a day from the age of 11 to 16.
What did that do to you?
Oh, it was a heavy tranquilizer.
Zombie?
Yeah. So, and if I didn't take it by orally, they give it to me in my bum, right? So then they kick you out, and you don't know how the chloropromazine anymore. And then I started smoking pot, but I already had PTSD at that age, but didn't know. And so the pot started helping me when I was 16, and it's now helped me till the age of 55. So thank you very much to cannabis, right? So and I've gone through suicide attempts and crack addiction and stuff, and cannabis. Even after a 4-day binge, the last thing I would do would be smoke a big joint so I could go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right? So on a crack binge or something like that, right? Or maybe 2 or 3 joints just to get my body down to that point. So it's always been there, and then one day I just said I can't do this anymore. I just stuck with my cannabis, and
For me,
it's
it
been
was
18
I
years
smoked
now.
all my life
Yeah.
because I liked it.
Yeah.
It made me feel good.
Yeah.
It made me laugh.
Yeah.
It made me see things in a different way. It was just a fun thing that I did that I liked doing. I also liked the fact that I wasn't allowed to do it.
Yes. That was fun too.
Bit of a rebel, and it allowed me to feel like I was being a rebel.
8 years of selling hash nuts on York Street was a bit of a rebel too. Yes.
Yeah. But for me, it was when my 17-year-long marriage ended, and how I felt about that. You know, having my wife leave and take the kids from me, and you know, I was married for life in my mind, and I was not okay. I was really not okay. But I remember a moment in time. I can still see myself there, and I'm puffing on a nice fat joint that I rolled, and it's making me feel better, and it's making me think about things. And I remember thinking to myself, if I didn't have this, man, can I ever understand how people could crawl into a bottle and stay there for a long time, or jump off a cliff to end the pain,
or just be angry at the
or,
world
you know,
forever.
It was very, very powerful for me at that time. At that moment, I recognized this is a powerful medicinal tool. You know, and where would I be without it? So it's
it really helped me think at the level that the medication was putting me at. Right, and when I was 16, I was just starting to smoke, so it was really heavy and affecting me. It wouldn't do that now, but
it's a powerful, good thing.
Yeah.
Let's see, he's escaping, so we'll talk a little bit more.
I can run to a 420 club if you want.
Do you want to do that little 420 club?
Sure, I got a time one, I got a long one, I got one in a couple minutes, I got like 40 seconds.
Put them both together.
You know what? Let's do that.
Put them both together, and then we'll come back with Jerry.
All right, let's do that.
Well, thank you,
we'll
Glenn.
see you next week.
Appreciate it very much.
All right.
Have as much fun as you can till then.
I'm on daddy duty tomorrow, so I'll have lots of fun.
That was fun meeting Isabel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really nice of you
Roxanne
guys coming out
sure
to
liked
visit. Yeah, it was really nice. I haven't had anybody, not even Jeremiah's made it out there yet, so you're pretty much the first person to make it out there.
All right, we're going to a video clip.
Okay.
Vancouver! Are y'all ready to get high with Cypress Hill?
Happy 420 Vancouver. You ready to do this?
Let's go!
Cypress Hill squad right here. We want to get high. We like to get high. Let's Vancouver get high.
Come on!
We like to get high.
Testing here.
24 years, that's what we've been doing. And they have completely and utterly ignored us. That's why this has gotten so big. If they'd come and talk to us a long time ago, it'd be all cool now. But they refuse to, for some unknown reason. It's cannabis.
Well, but we have some very big, very well capitalized national cannabis companies now in Canada. They trade on the stock exchanges. We see none of them represented here at all.
I don't see a lot of the ground riddled with all that fancy packaging that they have on that legal supply, a box, a jar inside of a box to get a gram of weed. It was high prices. They weren't giving any deals on quantity purchases to our sick and dying patients in this country. This was the large producer supply that the patients in this country were expected to suck up. They were expected to shut up, sit down, and smoke shit. Now, 6 months into our legalization, I see that out here it's not your access either. I stand for all my brothers in this community to be included. Our products are safe.
Where we got here, son? Some of Canada's finest right here. There's some wedding cake right there. God damn.
Well, everything out here is illegal. All our growers, our trimmers, our concentrate makers are fine products for decades.
Man, when this last trip I just had to Vancouver, I was just there for 420. And they had some shit that California boys would be like, yo, this is fire right here.
All of my brothers and sisters that I know selling fine products, nobody ever dying from cannabis, yet the media constantly belittles us. That was Trudeau's legalization, was to keep everybody out, give an offer of only a legal supply of large producer cannabis, which happens to be sprayed and irradiated It's a distinctive difference opening up their jars and the dank stuff that's in these booths down here today.
Good nut though.
God damn. That looks awesome.
Yeah, let's get away from this.
I'm here to tell you before it was enough. Enough with the cops beating down your doors that we need to bring in new cannabis enforcement teams. Talk about a bunch of wasted police resources. Is that your legalization? We protest because people are going to prison for pot over this new rules. It's not by access. They're wasting more taxpayers' dollars, they're clogging more courts, and they're ruining a hell of a lot more lives. And I'm not here to accept it. So the city, in my opinion, can shove it when they say, hey, what are you doing down there? It's legalized. Well, bullshit.
There's more harsh penalties, more money being spent on law enforcement, medical access is denied, dispensaries are closed. In fact, everything that was illegal before is still illegal now.
Thanks, everybody. Welcome to 420, Vancouver. How are we doing out there? I really appreciate the support. I'd like to tell you that this is what legalization looks like, but apparently this is what being a criminal looks like. So thanks for all of you coming down and being criminals with us. We really appreciate that. Of course, we're trying to not be criminals. That's what we've been after for all these years. This is my 21st 420. And we just want to not be criminals. We want to be free. Because really, this is more than about weed, right? This is about freedom. They would just talk to us and listen to us. Then we could tell them there's so much to protest. Yeah, I love Freddie Pritchard, and I'll tell you, he's right. This is not our legalization. This is not legalization for us, the people who have been fighting for it for all this time. This is not legalization that fits for any of the people that are cannabis consumers, daily users, medical users. What our theme at 420 was going to be this year is legalize this. That when you look out over the field there at Sunset Beach and you see several hundred vendors, all with wonderful products and good graphics and all the rest of it going on, all those people are still illegal under our so-called legalization. And our theme was going to be legalize this. What we're doing here, what all of us people are, and part of our culture are doing on this day on 420 here at Sunset Beach, this is the legalization that we are looking for. Everybody here and everything that we're doing here needs to be legal and not over-regulated. In fact, cannabis should be subsidized and encouraged rather than over-regulated and taxed. It doesn't have a net cost to our society. It has a net benefit to our society in several different areas. And our governments should be encouraging people through subsidies to use cannabis instead of all the other things that people are using with all of the other, unintended consequences of alcohol and commercial tobacco and toxic pharmaceuticals and white sugar and a bunch of other things. So in any case, that's what we're fighting for, is to have what we're doing legalized, and what we're doing has not been legalized. It's been increased as far as criminalization goes. The amount of money for enforcement has been increased. The amount of penalties have been increased. But worst of all is that the people that are using it for medical purposes, the people that are sick and that are suffering, are the ones that are really being hurt by legalization. We had a whole bunch of medical cannabis dispensaries across Canada that were serving the needs of those people. Before legalization happened, there was a couple of hundred dispensaries serving those needs. It was a self-regulated industry, using as best practices as they could, following Health Canada's guidelines with respect to cannabis distribution as well. And legalization came along, and Trudeau told us that we were all going to be free, and that they were going to legalize it for everybody, and that the medical patients would be all looked after. They wouldn't even have to worry about getting special licenses or anything like that. And it was a bunch of bullshit. He lied through his teeth. They set up a protection racket for his monopoly, for the insiders and other former prohibitionists to come in and start making huge dollars on the sale and production of cannabis. And everybody else who operates outside of their system is a criminal with more penalties than they had before and more money to enforce that. Money raised by the sale of legal cannabis. So it's been an absolute nightmare for the medical patients for sure. And the closing down of these medical dispensaries has left a lot of people out in the cold with respect to access, but it's done way worse than that for some of the people that were involved in trying to provide that access. The real heroes in this whole story, as history unfolds and we look down the road at the people that and who did what, those people that, despite the risks, did what they had to do to get their neighborhoods and their communities proper access to cannabis for medical purposes, those people are heroes. And yet our government are still treating them like criminals. Even to this day, where here during this pandemic, cannabis has been deemed to be an essential commodity for people. Even the non-medical government weed is an essential commodity. Well, it's not just an essential commodity now during the pandemic. It's always been an essential commodity. And especially the medical cannabis for medical patients, that is essential for those people. And I know lots of people that use cannabis and need cannabis that are pulling their hair out and beside themselves scared with respect to how they're going to get access to what they had before, to the cannabis that helps them and saves their life and makes them have a quality of life or allows them a quality of life that's tolerable. And so we have a segment here in this show every week called the Martin Medical Moment, where we talk about those things, and we talk about it with Jerry Martin, who is one of those dispensary owners in a small town in Saskatchewan that is probably the poster boy for medical cannabis dispensaries, because he was in a small community with about 1,000 people living there and had a membership of about 1,000 people. I mean, there was not everybody in the town that was using his services, because he had strict criteria for having a doctor sign off on a confirmation of diagnosis, as Health Canada demanded. And there were some people from outside of his town that came and used his services, so he served a large community. There was not much of any sort of dispensary, legal or otherwise, anywhere close to where he was there in Saskatchewan. And for 4 years, he helped those people get what they needed, buoyed all along by different court decisions that happened, including and especially the Allard decision, where Judge Phelan declared that storefront access to cannabis for medical purposes was at the heart of access and crucial for medical patients. And then in the face of even that decision, legalization looming, Vancouver having decided to license these illegal dispensaries, all of that, in the face of all of that, comes a letter from Health Canada demanding that he close down his operation. Well, that's impossible. That's absurd. That's cruel and unusual to try to do something like that. This is a person that was supplying cannabis for medical purposes to people with medical needs. And yet our government telling him to stop doing that? Well, what would that mean to all of those people that he was helping? They'd be out in the cold with no access and suffering because of it. It is not the role of public servants to cause people to suffer. So he didn't close. How could he close? Nobody with a conscience could possibly close under those circumstances. And sure enough, if Health Canada didn't send the RCMP in to treat him like a common criminal, arrest him, put him into handcuffs, seize all of his properties and money, and shut down his ability to help the people that he had been helping, it has ripped him apart. It has been one of the hardest things for me to watch somebody deal with. I'm sorry, but it does hurt me and touch me that way, because I can't help Jerry with his struggles. It's up to him. He has to deal with it. Only he knows the pain that he's in from having been stopped from helping people and being treated like a common criminal. And so before I get any more emotional, I'm going to let Jerry take over and get me back on some sort of a more positive track as we follow his case through the courts, which are now on hold because of the pandemic, of course. But over 40 court appearances later, over 3 years later, Jerry still has had his assets seized, and he's still being traumatized by our governments persecuting him and trying to punish him for being a hero and helping people. So anyway, Jerry, thank you for coming in. I'm sorry I'm emotional.
That's okay, Neil.
Damn it. What are they doing, eh?
I hear you. It's been a long battle.
It has been a long battle.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're smiling and handling it as good as you are. I don't know how I would be handling it. I'm an emotional guy too.
Mushrooms, dude. I'm telling you.
Thank goodness for plant medicines.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
And I guess we went straight there. There's not much to report with respect to your case.
No, it's a meeting in June, I think. So I think it's going to be a while yet.
Yeah. It's meeting in June to be postponed even further. And
then we've got to combine 3 different cases and witnesses. And
So in the meantime, you can't help people with your dispensary anymore. They shut you down in Small Town, Saskatchewan, and Whitewood, Saskatchewan.
And I still get messages all the time.
I'm sure you do.
Yesterday, a guy with prostate cancer wanted me to help him.
But you've turned your attention to something else that you can do.
Yeah.
And that's help people with microdosing mushrooms and LSD.
Yeah, well, not necessarily mushrooms, but we're using 4-ACO DMT, which is a...
You're just using mushrooms.
Yeah,
Dana's helping people get access.
For me, we're using the 4-ACO DMT, which converts to a psilocin. So it's all basically the same thing. Personally, today I ate some regular mushrooms.
I see.
I had some capsules made up, so I just grabbed one of those. And
you can hallucinate on mushrooms.
Yeah, for sure. If you take it, that one day I came in here, I ate about a quarter of a chocolate, and I think all that gram was stuck in the corner because the walls were moving.
Yeah.
So I'm a little more cautious these days.
Yeah, so if you're going to do mushrooms, just be aware that, you can hallucinate and you can cause some sorts of things as well. But microdosing is a different thing altogether there. You really don't feel much of an effect, and that's the idea, is you don't feel much of an effect, but there are effects going on.
Yeah.
And same with the LSD that you're helping people with. It helps people with depression. It helps people with anxiety, with addiction, with a bunch of other things like that.
I think you feel a lot of the effects, just not the side effects.
So would you consider the hallucinations a side effect?
Yeah, well, I would think so. Yeah, I would call that a side effect. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you're feeling all the benefits. You're just not feeling what you normally would associate with.
Well, I found LSD hard to handle. When I was in the middle of a LSD trip. Back when I was younger, I did a fair bit of that, or some of that. I did a fair bit of it until I had like you say, I had a chocolate that had most of the mushroom in the one corner.
I think so. I think that one was a little lopsided.
We bought some LSD at a Joe Walsh concert,
nice.
some window pane. And my cousin, when he did his, it didn't really have any effect on him. Yeah. And when I did mine, it was like, holy smokes, almost immediately. And I was like needing to be peeled off of the ceiling and carried through the streets. And
I remember doing 5 hits at Metallica concert.
Hours later, I was in a Denny's in the middle of the night, now feeling like what I had gotten used to as a normal LSD stone. That one scared me. I even went to hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my doctor's now just recently, in the last couple of years, retired. But for all my life, I had this doctor that I met that night in that hospital emergency room. My body was sitting on the bed in the emergency little room there, the room they had put me in. My essence was up in the top corner, looking down on my body, and this doctor that was standing there talking to my body and saying, "I don't understand why you kids do this to yourselves."
That's funny.
And so he became my doctor after that, and David Anderson. He was a really good doctor. He retired a few years ago. I think, and he then just went to his geriatric patients. He eliminated all of the patients, including me, that weren't of that nature. And I think it was because he was torn about the cannabis topic. Like, he really didn't know quite what to do about it. I was pushing him, of course, to allow me to have a license to possess and stuff. So anyway, he retired from that. He was a really good doctor, but yeah, that was kind of out of an acid trip. I ended up with a really good doctor for the rest of my life.
I hadn't done a full hit of acid since I was probably 25 until the other night, and then I did 5 of them.
I was
different
19,
kinds.
By the way, I was 19.
Oh, I was just fear. I've been microdosing, but it was the fear of doing that and all those memories, right?
Yeah, exactly. I haven't done it since.
But we're at a different position in our lives right now, and if you're in the right setting, I think that makes all the difference in the world, right?
So you took 5 all at once, haven't you?
Well, I thought I'd try this AL. Well, I microdosed at first some liquid LSD that had been graciously given to me, and it's been sitting in the fridge forever. And I didn't know how much was in there because I kind of rinsed out the bottle, and so it's been sitting there. So I did a microdose, which ended up being quite a bit, I think.
Right.
And then I tried the ALD 52, which is synthesized by Hoffman, and then I popped a 1CP and a 1P, and
So what was your experience?
It was intense. Well, it would have been much better had I not had to deal with a coder in India for like 5 hours solid. It felt like my brain, I couldn't even feel it. Like I couldn't feel my head. Even the next day, I couldn't feel my head, right? But I was just so intensely involved in all this technical work. But
wow, that's hard to do.
It is. The person I was with was just like, I don't know how you're doing.
Was anything melting? Or was anything growing? I had pot plants pop out of a pool table.
Definitely lots of visuals, and especially with the electronics, it's a different visual space in there.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't done it since I was 19.
But I had to be focused, and I found that it really certainly helped me focus. I was like, it was a perfect world for me at the time. Tech, digital, code and stuff, right? So it's.
I kind of been saying most of my life that when I get to 80, I'll do some more acid.
Yeah.
I don't know why I felt that way or feel that way. It's weird, like you said, sort of residual from that trip that I had.
I think you should try. I think you should. I'll give you a kit. And you should try the microdosing. I'm telling you, you won't even feel it. Yeah, you won't even feel it.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, cool. I'll hold you.
I did try microdosing some mushrooms. And,
well,
I don't know that it had much of an effect on me. I didn't do it for too long.
Right. Well, see, I was having this issue too, but I wasn't sticking to the regimen, so I wasn't giving it a fair shake.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't really have much that I'm addressing.
Yeah. But you don't. Yeah.
I've been very, very fortunate in my life with the people that I've known, who my parents were. I mean, they were right-wing Protestant religious people that were whacked out thinking there was angels and demons
we all grew up,
poking at them and stuff like
Pentecostal
that.
for us.
Heaven and hell and all the rest of that. I don't believe in that stuff.
I was a burner.
But still, they were good, positive people, and they did give me, and the Bible itself has some good lessons in there. Depends what you want to take out of there.
It gave me a lot of morals, and it probably helped me survive on the streets, I'll tell you that. Instead of turning into somebody I probably never would have come back from, right? So,
I realized at 16 my parents weren't right about what they believed. In my opinion, everything's just my opinion. Who knows whether we're right or wrong? Don't believe me about nothing. It's just my opinion. But at 16,
well, I'm with you.
16 years old, smoking a joint on my way to school in the morning, thinking about my parents' religion in a nutshell. Like, in a nutshell, what was it all about? It's like it's a God, and he's all it is, and he creates everything that is, including all these angels, and then one of the angels, thinks he's as good as God, and there's a little bit of jealousy goes on, and then there's a war that happens, and half the angels get kicked out, and they follow this guy, and then God creates humans, and they get to decide whether they choose him or him, and the whole thing, I just went, this is all nuts.
For me, they made all that look so damn glorious. The first time I ever heard AC/DC was at a Billy Graham crusade in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Straight up. We had to buy the old tapes and fucking record them. Well, I was hooked, man.
Yeah. I had a religious conversion at an evangelical tent meeting, and I was, grade 6 or into grade 7, beginning of grade 8. I was a religious guy with a Bible in my hand, long hair, mind you. But and there I was now 16. And I'm walking down the street, and I'm just, because I do that with everything. Every book I read, I would always summarize it at the end. And so I was just summarizing what it was that my parents believed in, and that I had believed in. And I went, no. An all-knowing God that creates a couple of humans to decide between him and the devil, and he doesn't even know which way that's going to go. And they end up choosing him instead of him, and then they get kicked out of the garden, and then they're embarrassed by their own nakedness because they're made in the image of God.
It was degrading for me. It was you were never good enough, or anything you did, you were bad, or
the original
going to
sin
hell.
was always there,
You just weren't a good person, And
that's
so
true, too.
I never felt good growing up about anything.
I see.
Certainly
there was
not
certainly
about
the original
myself.
sin, and we were born sinful, and we needed to ask for forgiveness all the time. We had this lower nature that was always,
But then I started seeing some of these families during the week as I got older, and they're doing
true.
shit.
You see the hypocrisy.
But on Sunday,
so I rejected it right then and there on that walk to school that day. And from that point, I had to try to figure it out for myself. I thought, well, my parents aren't right. They're not lying because they believe it, but they're not right. I can tell that just by my little summary there. I mean, common sense tells me that's not right. And so I went to a bunch of different religious leaders over the course of the next couple of years, anybody I could find, and picked their brain about their religion. And I had a lot of them say it, towards the end of our conversations. Well, you're a whole lot more sure about what you think is going on than I am about what I. We live it with faith here. We have to have a lot of faith because it doesn't make a lot of sense. What you're looking for is logic, and then your logic, you know. But
you know what? But they brainwashed people so
for
bad.
sure it is.
I am still brainwashed. I still do it.
I see.
I still thank God and do all
I
other
rejected it
but
en masse. That one day at 16, I rejected it all en masse. Born into it, raised into it, even an evangelical convert for a few years in there. But at 16, when I did that little summary, I rejected it en masse. I said, nope, they're wrong. So now I don't know what's right and wrong. And I got to go find out. And in the finding out, I also read a bunch of different books on different things, you know. And I came to a whole bunch of different strategies. And that's kind of been my point here, is that I'm very lucky in my life that I've had these things happen to me, that I've read the books that I've read and met the people that I've read, that I've got the brain that I've got. And I've sort of gotten strategies about how to deal with the shit that like we're dealing with right now.
Buddhism, spirituality, you know, things like that. That's cool. But fear-based religions,
that's it.
I'm
not about fear.
Yeah.
I'm about love. And certainly with my parents' religion, it's both.
Yeah.
It's like, I know it's crazy and hard to wrap your brain around, but you better have faith and believe it without doubting it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to end up burning in hellfire forever. And if you do, well, you're going to have God to walk with on streets of gold. You never get sick, and everyone you love is there. And there was both the carrot and the stick going on in extremes.
I came home one day.
You did what?
I came home one day. I don't know where it was, maybe school or something, or I was out. And I come into the apartment, and we got a fireplace. And the Russells are over, this Jamaican family, awesome Jamaican family. They had like 13 kids or something. Long story, another story. But anyways, they are burning everything in my room. I'm going to literally, dude. They're burning everything. It was a harsh age growing up in the 80s, man, with all that shit. Well, praying over it, the devil, and it's like, holy fuck, I just smoked some weed, man.
I've taken some of the good moral lessons. I've altered the ones in ways. I'm a believer in reasonableness, and if it doesn't make reason to me, then I don't necessarily believe in the golden rule. Like, I don't think that you should like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, who knows what kind of perversions I might have going on. What I like, you might not like doing.
I was going to say, I kind of like us.
So I'm not sure about that one. We kind of twisted it a little bit and said, well, don't do unto others that which you wouldn't want done unto you. And, that I've taken, into heart as well. So, I've taken the good parts. I don't believe in the fire and brimstone or the heaven and the streets of gold.
Me either.
I believe in the here and now. I don't know what's afterwards.
Oh, I've done so many psychedelics now that I definitely think there could
more. Be. I mean, I've seen other dimensions. I've done LSD.
Yeah.
I get it. There could be. And when you look at quantum physics and stuff, I mean,
man, energy.
There's possibilities.
I'm convinced.
Dimensions
and plus, I've OD'd several times. And one time, actually, I come real close, dude, and I am alone. And I'm trying to dial 911. I finally get it dialed. And I hit end instead of send. But as I'm going, the walls going bam, 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 bam in my head, right? And it's just going black. You know what I mean? But my consciousness was so aware and full. Yeah. And I got myself out of it, but remember to breathe. But it was scary as fuck, dude.
Yeah, there's shit that happens. It might be all in your head. I don't really know.
I've been on so many different levels of consciousness and with being aware. And I think there's definitely more to it.
Yeah, I don't discount it. I don't necessarily believe in the version that the mainstream religions have about it.
Well, I don't think anybody could have a real version because they'd have to come back and tell us about it. Which I guess Jesus did.
Yeah, the preachers at my parents' church, they could paint quite the picture of what heaven was like, They would spend some sermons doing that about, heaven is going to be so fantastic, folks.
Yeah.
Kind of like me talking about all the benefits of cannabis, So, I don't know about all that. I believe in the here and now. I live in this moment, and I want to make the best of this moment. Whatever is going on is going on. I like stoicism. Where there's what's going on in the world and there's what's going on between your ears. And I can control what goes on in between my ears, and I have some limited control over the rest of it.
I'm
so, I'm just lucky, that's all. But cannabis has helped me with that. Cannabis helped me contemplate many of these things. Like I said, I was smoking a joint, walking down the street at 16, wearing my green camo jean jacket that I had on. I could see what I was wearing. I know that exact moment. I know which house I was in front of when it hit me. I had left my house doing my little, religion in a nutshell. What do my parents believe in a nutshell? Or what do we believe in a nutshell? And I got to that particular driveway at that house in the bend on Bluebird Crescent, wearing what I was wearing on my way to school, and it just hit me. I just stopped dead in my tracks, and I thought, they're wrong. They're wrong. They're not lying. They believe it. They're not lying, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I gotta refigure out everything now, because I was brought up in that whole realm of angels and demons and heaven and hell and all that kind of stuff, right? Prayer every time you wake up, every time you go to bed, every time you have a meal, Sunday school in the morning and church at night.
Oh, the memories, dude. Stop. I'm going to have to have some counseling after the show.
Well, I hope that the show is therapeutic for you in some way. So anyway, that's kind of that for that.
Yeah.
What's going on new for you? I mean, tell us how to find your website for the microdosing stuff.
Yeah, microdelics.ca. Yeah.
You're anticipating perhaps a possible meeting in June to see if you can move forward with your court case with a couple other people.
Yeah, and I'm working
on other court
on
cases going on in Canada that are now on hold, waiting to see what happens. And of course, we all understand, and now the lawyers are all going to argue in your case and every other one that hey, if cannabis is an essential commodity, what are you doing to these people that we're helping people get?
Good point. I'll add that in there. Yeah, and then we got another case coming up here, maybe here. We're working on something too that's going to be really world changing, I would think.
Can you talk about it? All right?
Yeah, I can talk about it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Unless if somebody wants to beat me to it, go ahead and spend the money, and please do, because it's going to help a whole lot of people.
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to try and launch a case here with a scientist friend of mine out of the U.S. and some other people, hopefully to back us, and we're going to try and get LSD legalized in Canada and hopefully psilocin, and we may throw a couple others in there as well, like mescaline, but we need to keep whatever drugs we do present. It's very important that we have evidence base for this and expert witnesses like scientists and doctors and things like that.
Dr. Chris Bennett,
Yeah.
he's done a lot of work on people's natural right to these plants and cacti that are in our world. That governments don't have the right to tell people.
Yeah, Chris tried to do a case there a while back, and they kind of threw him under the bus there, I think. But now's it's times are changing. It'd be another good time to bring back up. Yeah, Chris is a great guy.
Yeah, so lots of fronts to fight this on. Lots of things that aren't right yet that we need to be out correcting.
Yeah,
and thank you for being a guy that's fighting it, Jerry. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to battle with too many people, but you're one of the guys that I'd go there with because I know that you'd put your whole heart and soul into it, and and I love you, brother. So thank you for fighting the fight with us, and thanks for coming on the show and talking to us about it every week, and we'll see where we go.
All right, brother.
Thank you very much.
See you next week.
See you next week. Are we playing video at this moment, Neil, or am I back on here?
Well, you're back on the main.
I'm back on the main.
Is there another video you want to look at?
I don't think so, is there?
Well, I've got one about the CSP.
Let's do one about the CSP, because that's what we're going to do now is we'll just update the CSP, and then we're going to wrap it up a little early tonight. Tell you that cannabis saved their life.
You know what's going on?
We're bagging up stuff for the Cannabis Substitution Project. These are the care packs that we give out. We give out about somewhere between 160 to 200 of these packs every time that we're here, twice a week.
And what's in the packs?
The packs would have, typically there's gummy, candy there, a cap, a joint. We have these other caramel types of gummies. But unfortunately, because of the city's clampdown on dispensaries and the transition to the non-medical legal government stores, the access to cannabis edibles has really been reduced. So we had 150 dispensaries here, none of them government stores, all of them medical to a degree, all of them with edibles, and that was just the marketplace, the demand and then the supply coming to meet the demand. And the city decided to interfere with that, and now there's people really struggling to find what they need out there.
It's hard for
and
me
to the point where we have 180 people going to line up here today in the rain for hours to get a bag like that. There's a great need in this city that's not being met.
It made me feel different. And probably where I went off the rails was getting into the acid and the speed and heroin. But fortunately for me, I didn't go overboard. And after doing a week run one time, getting sick and diarrhea, I turned my life over to God, became a Christian, but I still smoked weed. And now I've had 3 surgeries, and I don't take meds.
So it actually gives me pain relief, as well as helps me with epilepsy, as well as anxiety, panic attacks. Yeah.
I'd rather smoke weed and eat edibles than go back to pills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pills kill.
Yeah.
Weed doesn't.
I don't depend on buying pharmaceuticals and speed drugs as much anymore because I take care of my physical pain with medical marijuana and the edibles that are provided for me.
Cannabis helps me a lot.
It's really ironic that police would waste their efforts on edibles, marijuana edibles, when there's actually people dying from opiate crisis. I don't see anybody dying from eating edibles. I see people being well and not taking opiates because they feel better, they don't need to take it.
It keeps me calm and keeps me pain-free.
Awesome, thank you. The cannabis helps me eat with my meds.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time eating with my meds. So I eat like gummy gels, Billy Bombs before I eat, and then I'm able to like have a meal.
That pink is healed.
Yeah.
Scab's gone.
Yeah,
It's
that's
4
from
weeks.
the oil.
This
inside, right?
arm was broken. Like that, the one package, you've got enough. You've got enough of it. It doesn't take an endless amount, just that one dose per week or day or whatever it takes you. And I'll put it down. I'll put it down and say, I don't need it anymore. I'm fine.
No, it's a nightmare just getting housing. I use it, I eat it, I smoke it, and I use the cream for my arthritis.
Now it gives people an alternative to what other people would give you as the bad button, and this is the right button to get. It's been with us for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And now because of political complications, we can't deal with it as mature adults. So this is a healing band-aid for us economically. If people will just free up the situation and allow the garden to grow.
My husband Doug and I are the owners of the S&M Medicinal Sweet Shop over in Gibsons, BC. We're a seed-to-table edibles company, so with that, I grow all of the cannabis that goes into all of our edible products that Doug makes. We started the company originally for Doug. Doug was on narcotics for 25 plus years. 5.5 of that was oxycodone. He really needed to get off of it, so he decided to make edibles.
Yeah.
So we started making edibles, and he slowly weaned himself off of methadone.
I'm using it medically for 44 years because of my heart.
I smoke sativa, and I find sometimes it just gives me a little bit of energy.
She can't walk. She has diabetes, and her legs swell up so bad and sores. She can't walk. I can.
Yeah.
So I come all the way from New Westminster and get this, take it home, and give most of it to her.
Edibles in this city are unaffordable for low-income people. The taxing of medical cannabis is wrong. Please don't tax our medical cannabis. We need it. It saves my life. It saves their life. And it'll save somebody from opiate death.
How many?
230 people. That is the biggest lineup we had so far this year.
To help people with offsetting the use of street drugs because they kill people, the lack of access is definitely causing deaths in this city. So shame on the government, shame on our municipal government for not allowing the free access to medical dispensaries and edibles, which should be happening.
So thank you, man. Really appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so as you can see, cannabis is an essential commodity for those people and for a lot of people. And it's really horrible that our governments are not making them readily and easily available for people, for sure, especially with the pandemic going on with respect to the poisoned drug supply on the downtown east side. The CSP, for anybody who doesn't know, is the Cannabis Substitution Project. And what we do is we give out care packs to people. As you saw, the lineups of people there that come. That clip is from a few months ago. We have huge numbers coming now, well over 200 people that come twice a week, Thursdays and Sundays. We start at 11:30 now. We try to get people out of there as quick as we can. I have amazing volunteers with this project. The volunteers have been with me, the core of them, for almost all of the 3 years that we've been running. and these people are amazing. They've stood up to the current situation and not been deterred at all. They're there every time. I make them wear gloves and masks, because of the situation with the virus pandemic. And we are using the opportunity to educate to the people that come there to get the care packs. I get up on a chair with my megaphone and talk about proper physical distancing, about not touching common touch areas, about making sure you keep your hands off your face. Once you've been out in the world at all, wash your hands as frequently as you can in the world, but that's hard to do because none of the washrooms are open anywhere. But as soon as you get home, first thing you do is wash your hands. And yeah, let's just keep everybody safe. If people are sick at all, they should stay home. That's how it really spreads, is somebody who's got the virus, who's coughing, got a fever, and they're shedding virus in fairly large amounts to anybody that's close to them. Those people should stay at home for sure. So thanks to all of our volunteers. I can't thank them enough. Jen and Andrew and George and Chris, and it goes on and on. We've got a lot of them, and it's a really well-oiled machine that shows up there every day, twice a week that I show up there with all these donations. They're all bagged on site before we get going, and I can't thank all the volunteers enough. And also, everything is by donation. And it wouldn't work at all if we didn't have regular dedicated donators that donate every time, and a sprinkling of people that donate once in a while. Both of those categories of donations are extremely important to continuing this program, and we have been so blessed by those people that help us all the time. You can find out about it on Facebook. It's a group called the Cannabis Substitution Project. Join the group, and every time that we do it, I post the donators for that particular event, and support those people that are supporting us and donating to us, because without it, like I say, our program wouldn't be happening. And we are literally saving the lives of these people that line up there every time. There's many, many people within our lineup. We've come to know them all very well over the course of years. And many of them will report that they're no longer using any other drugs off the street, that they're only using cannabis. And that was kind of the impetus for starting the project in the first place, was knowing dozens of people that had been on the hard drugs that got off them thanks to cannabis, which will help you go through the withdrawal process, and then can replace the opioids that you were using. Not smoked cannabis so much, but certainly edibles, and to some degree the concentrates as well, can be very effective. And the reason for that is because you can't smoke too much cannabis. I mean, you can smoke cannabis until you've smoked all that you have, and you're not going to get much higher after those first 2 good grams. But you can eat too much cannabis. You can eat way too much cannabis. You can also smoke too much concentrates to the point of greening out. But you can eat too much cannabis to the point of being pretty much comatose for days. And because you can eat too much, you can find that right dose that'll get you to where you need to be to deal with whatever pain you're dealing with that you're using the hard drugs for. And the vast majority of people using those hard drugs are dealing with pain, be it physical or emotional. It's not just that drugs are addictive, because there's like 90 percentile of people that try opioids and the other hard drugs in their youth reject them and don't stay with that and don't get addicted to them. But those people that have underlying issues, health issues, emotional health issues, mental health issues, physical health issues for sure, they find relief in the opioids and the other harder drugs, and that's why they become dependent on them to the point of addiction. And once you've been using those regularly and they've become part of your system, it becomes very difficult to stop using them, and you go through a withdrawal process that is extremely painful and difficult to go through to get those things out of your system. So cannabis in the form of high-dose edibles is very effective in helping people get through the withdrawal process, and with then supplanting the use of the drugs that were helping them deal with what they're dealing with. So a big thanks to the donators who allow us to keep helping these people who would be in desperate straits without it. We have formed a society now. We are the Serious Hope Society. That is the umbrella for the Cannabis Substitution Project. We have a really good board of directors and an amazing advisory board. We are moving forward, but during the pandemic, it's very difficult to move forward quickly. We need a storefront. That is our biggest need, 100%. Although with respect to donations, we need more flowers. For sure. We use the trim and the flowers that we get from donators, give it to our bakers. Our bakers bake the edibles that we give to people, And that is an ongoing tax on our project, is to make sure that we continue to have enough to keep everybody baking what they're baking, so that we can continue to give out what we're giving out. So if you know any growers or people that have extra trim, or have the ability to donate flower or trim to us, it's important that we get more of that, and please do that. And with respect to the storefront, our plans is to have a storefront which would allow us to much better use the safety protocols during the viral pandemic in helping people, rather than having them all line up on the sidewalk and deal with us at a table. So we really do need a storefront. We would operate every day if we had a storefront. We would have a cost recovery system, so that we'd be able to sell high-dose edibles and good quality cannabis for reasonable prices. Low barrier access is how the city worded it in their motion that was passed unanimously, to allow for low barrier access to cannabis, for specifically to deal with the opioid crisis. So when we get a storefront, we will have that available, and we will continue our Cannabis Substitution Project for those people that are now current members of our project, and for those people that would qualify financially in the future. And so those are some of the plans that we have going on with that. And that's kind of our update for now. We're continuing on, and look forward to more updates in the future. We're going to cut the show a little bit short today, and for a couple of good reasons. But Pot TV does broadcast other shows all week long. Tomorrow we've got Greg Williams. He was the main host of our 420 Online yesterday. His show from Under the Influence has been going on for a very long time. He's the longest running show on Pot TV. Greg has a really interesting sense of humor and a really good filter for looking at things, and his perspective is well worth tuning in for to check out. On Fridays, we have Cannabis Culture News Live with Jeremiah Vandermeer, the main force behind all that we do here at Cannabis Culture. And Jeremiah has a great show where he keeps everybody up to date on what's current, and I'm sure he's going to have a real good recap of our 420 Online coming up on Friday. Saturdays, Boss Lissa with High Noon has been on a bit of a hiatus recently, probably coming back in the near future, may even be back on Saturday. Tune in to find out about that. And next Monday, it's Carly Marley and BC Budgal with the 420 Lifestyle Show. All the things that you can do to have fun with cannabis, and she'll keep you up to date as well. More fun than you can have anywhere else on our shows on the web. And then Tuesdays, we're back with more of Truth, Hope, and Change with myself, Neil Magnuson, and with you, who comes along for the ride every week, and I'm really happy that you do that. I want to thank my producer, Neil, for helping the show look as good as it does, because it sure wouldn't without him. I want to thank Greg. I want to thank Glenn Wells, 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca. Check out CannaMatch.ca, by the way, especially in these times of not being able to get together with people. It's a good way to communicate with people who like the herb, and CannaMatch.ca is the way to do that. And Jerry Martin, bless his soul, who comes in here and shares his oppressive journey by our corrupt public servants in persecuting him for trying to help sick people get access to a healing herb. And thanks, Jerry, for coming in as well. And once again, to all of you for watching. And as we move forward during these tough times, hopefully we come out of it on top and better people at the end. Be kind to each other and have as much fun as you can changing the world.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you, and still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good?
Yeah,
What?
laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And fun.
Hi there, welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sycamoose video.
Oh yes, Sycamoose video. Let's play the Sycamoose video.
Yeah, so that's my home. That's like all over the place, I guess.
It helps the speaker lead his audience into the scene he describes.
Oh, I'm rolling out the fattest joint I could possibly fit in this paper.
Perfect.